guys behave yourself.
Welcome, everyone, to Ladder Daily Digest. We honor creators, and Tim is a creator that we're bringing on every week. And we've decided to come into Tim's living room every week so that we can pick his brain, talk things over, talk about the past, talk about the future, talk about UFOs. And tonight we're talking about drugs. And since, we don't even have the FBI in yet, we'll see what's going to happen. And so thanks for coming on the show. So my concept is that we know that religions go around and they either proselyte or they have meetings and they try to tell people they're sinners and that their services will help them be better people, help them recover from the sin. And I was wondering, what if we compared religions to a drug? What if, and we'll just do it with Mormonism since we're familiar with Mormonism. And so I was thinking that, missionaries might go into neighborhoods and try to solicit people to start partaking of the stream of product that they have. And they might try to, do presentations and try to get people informed on the benefits of what the drug could do for them. And so, Robert, if you were a missionary and you were going to come into somebody's home, what type of benefits would either a drug or religion perhaps offer somebody?
Okay, well, this pill, I'm sure, will alter one's consciousness, and you will be able to access greater wisdom about the universe. You'll also have a special feeling which will cause you to bond with other members of your family and your neighborhood in ways that you haven't experienced before. Your suffering, whether it's physical or emotional or spiritual, will be reduced through the magic of this pill. It'll help you thrive and be more successful in life, avoid addiction to the real bad drugs out there. And it'll just give you regular, on-demand neurochemical rewards, which we all want, that dopamine.
And it'll teach you what you need to do to have a great afterlife.
Of course.
That's right. So that you can be reunited with your family.
It'll help you in this life, too.
And help you in this life as well.
Right.
And so welcome in, Diamond Dave.
Yo.
So it seems like we have a busy night tonight. Another show going on. And Rebecca Biblioteca just finished her show a little bit ago with Ganesh Chirian. I should have sent Ganesh a link to our show, and maybe he can hop on now. Maybe I can do that.
I like that guy.
And so in a way, a missionary would be almost equal to a drug dealer in a neighborhood. They would be spreading the gospel or trying to get new customers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was thinking that you would have to take, for the drug to work, you have to be in the right frame of mind. You might have to congregate once a week with fellow drug takers, maybe sing songs together that will get you in the proper mood, receive instruction. And I suppose for Mormonism, there will be a special group of drug takers that get to go and do higher ordinances in special buildings and in smaller groups.
It would make sense to me that in each building, someone be chosen as the leader, and they would have like a handbook of instructions, or like when you go to the pharmacy and there's all the directions for when and how much to take and take with food. and that when the congregation meets to take this pill, it would be best if that leader took it first, like as an example. And then that leader could also decide like who's legitimately going to be allowed to take the pill and who can't.
So some people could be worthy or unworthy.
Right.
And you can only get the pill at this meeting. That's the only time you can get it. Once a week at this meeting.
Right.
It's the only place you can get it. And it's very special. It'll do wonderful things for you.
But during the week, there would be things to do. Like you could gather the youth very early and begin training them of how we learned about this pill and how modern leaders brought it back in its purity to heal our ails and fix our problems. And of course, during the week, we could gather the youth. The young men would learn how to be future administrators of the pill, and the young women would learn how to support those men in that role.
That's right. And when the drug first came about, people were persecuting the users of that drug, and they had to go to different locations to try to find freedom. Finally, they had to leave the United States and cross over prairies and the Rocky Mountains to find a spot for consuming this product. And so anyway, Dave, do you get the point of this show so far?
We're gonna have an argument, Gene. I think we're gonna have an argument tonight because I don't agree with that at all. Having been an actual drug addict, opioids, heroin, meth, as well as other things, I can say with firsthand experience, I do not personally equate religion with drug use. I can see the attempt to make analogies of the principles and the things that take place. The fundamental difference I'd like to point out is the outcome. If you look at human history, Ex-Mojo even brought this up, where I think it was Carl Sagan that said that man's first attempt at astronomy was astrology, which came from religion. Man's first attempt at medicine was alchemy. That came from religion. We have received music and literature and art, beautiful things. Drug addiction, you either end up dead or in jail. That's it. There's no good outcome from drugs. And I personally don't agree with connecting the two in that way. I also think it can be a bit, I don't know if damaging is the right word, but I think it can be maybe harmful if we're trying to talk about the negative sides of religion, because there are very, very negative sides to religion that we have seen in Mormonism, and we can all agree exist. I think to equate it to drug use, I think kind of muddies the waters a bit and takes away from the actual issues. Just my thoughts.
I'm so glad you said all that. I totally respect your experience and your insight, and I do agree that a religion has produced a lot of good things. This is where universities and hospitals kind of began. And I think, Dave, you won't be upset when you find out what is special about this pill proposal we're talking about. Gene?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I won't be upset. I just didn't get a message. I just got a StreamYard link. So I just saw the title, and then Gene sent me the YouTube thing. I'm like, oh, this looks interesting, and hopped in with a pizza, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna have an argument tonight.
Yeah, and so obviously that's the benefit of this drug that we're peddling, is that it doesn't get you hooked like other hardcore drugs, and you have to manipulate the drug in order to receive sort of an altered state of consciousness. It would also involve lots of prayer, lots of either chanting or singing songs, sometime maybe fasting and added to the prayer in order to get some of the added benefits. And so so that's, a benefit. So we're wondering if it was the drug aspect, would people want it in their community? If it really was a drug, and perhaps maybe it's really just a sugar pill, right? And any effects are just a placebo, because when drugs are tested in pharmaceuticals, they have to see how many people take the sugar pill and actually claim the same benefits of the pill that has the medicine. And that does happen. And so sometimes people's, the state of consciousness that they're in, that they're hoped for relief from either a migraine headache or some health condition. Some people have come on other podcasts and said that once they realized that some of the controlling behavior of a high demand organization, once that was removed from them, they actually improve their health. So I don't know if that's psychosomatic or if there's another word for that.
I think I mentioned this on a different podcast. It might have actually been this one. I don't know if it'd be psychosomatic. I think that might actually be true. And the reason why I believe them entirely when they say I left this high demand religion and I feel better is because there's no universal way to quantify what a high demand religion is, right? Because we are wired neurologically differently. So being on the autism spectrum, for instance, I thrive in corporate environments. I thrive in very rigid and structured environments. When I'm taken out of that, I literally ended up in the lifestyle that I did. But there are other people who, setting religion aside, if you put them in a corporate job with a schedule and a hierarchy, they wouldn't last a week because they just don't, their brains don't interpret it. Their brains don't interpret their reality that way. They see it differently. They experience things differently. So, I think when it comes to the question of what you're pointing out, I think it's how the brain is wired and how the individual is wired, as well as we're products of our environment as well. So it's a matter of finding where the individual fits. For some people, it's going to be, doing their own thing and completely away from religion entirely. And I respect that. Other people like myself, well, we like structure, we like the status quo, and we do just fine in it. And I think both are equally valid, honestly. I don't think either side should mock or bash the other for not fitting into the mold. You know what I mean?
Right, so you don't think that the Mormon Church should talk badly towards apostates or about apostates, or tell their members to avoid anybody who doesn't believe?
No, I mean, I'm sure we've all joked about it at some point, joked about people being apostates, but I think at the end of the day, there's a reason why people leave. And if we are to accept that people are, in fact, all people are sons and daughters of God, that their choice has a level of value to it and should be respected. And at the very, if you can't, for whatever reason, if that bothers you, then at the very least, just leave them alone because it doesn't affect you anyway. Just let them live in peace.
But it does affect you when it becomes laws and is forced upon you. And you cannot legislate morality, yet they do it all the time.
Yeah, I think that's very much a human thing as well. We see it globally with religion, we see it with politics, we see it with whatever. People who have power want their will legislated on others, whether it's religious, whether it's economic, doesn't, same thing, same pile.
And Tim and Robert, when you guys were missionaries, if somebody said, "Hey, you guys are no different than a drug dealer, you're trying to get people hooked into your pipeline of helping them to feel better about their lives, how would you have felt as a missionary if somebody said that?
I would have considered it.
You would have.
Would have considered it. Say, well, maybe he's right.
So you had an open mind even back then?
Oh, yes. 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 Even back then. Yes.
How about you, Robert?
Oh, I probably would have not liked to hear that accusation because I was fully convinced that it was a good thing and I was helping people, but I didn't know so much back then.
Yeah, I mean, when you're 19 or 20, you haven't really lived very much life. You've seen, if you've been in a good Mormon family or a good religious family, you've seen good things happen around you. Were you an Eagle Scout? Yeah. And so you got accolades for doing the things that people wanted you to do. You got awards, and it seemed like that would be a good thing for everybody, right? To be able to think, someday I'm going to see my passed on relatives, my grandmother or something, or I'll be safe with my mom through the eternities or whatever. I don't know how people feel about families can be together forever. But I think it's more like moms want to be with their kids forever more than the other way around.
I wonder.
That's funny.
Who knows? It might end up just being like Star Trek. You know what I mean? Like every culture has their own interpretation of heaven and hell, and just whatever you believe and practice is just where you'll go.
So it's like manifest.
Yeah, kind of. I mean,
The universe
it could be.
manifests whatever
With quantum, with quantum, the study of quantum physics and multiple realities, things get really weird really quick. So it's possible anyway. I mean, who knows? But
I have a close family friend, we'll say, who believes that if there's something that happens, it'll just happen to everybody. That's how they have decided that they don't have to be beholden to 15, we'll say, elderly gentlemen for determining what they have to do in their lives. And there are billions of people that don't believe in Christianity, right, Dave?
Yep. And there's billions of people that haven't even heard of Christianity. So
not even heard. And they don't even have their birth records a lot, so that they would never be able to be baptized for the dead until one day somebody says, hey, I baptize you, Robert, for and behalf of all the spirits who need it.
No pressure.
Boom, all done.
No pressure, Rob.
Right? Then it's all taken care of in one fell swoop. Anybody what didn't have the opportunity on earth, boom, they can accept Robert's offering.
All the Neanderthals and all the
Neanderthals and
all the Denovians,
all the Denisovians.
all of the 7 different races that humanity consists of. Interesting.
Awesome. So that explains the YouTube thumbnail. Today's show's actually a cult based around Rob.
That's right.
Sign up now, folks. No.
Praise be to Rob, the savior of us all.
Did any of you read the University of Utah neuroscience study with return missionaries? Have you read about this?
No.
So if you go to the internet and Google, "This is your brain on God," you'll find the articles. And basically what they did is they got a couple dozen return missionaries. They put their brains underneath an MRI, and they asked them to do several spiritual activities: pray, read scriptures, sing a hymn, watch church videos, and read quotes by church leaders. And then they watched to see what parts of the brain lit up, and they asked the participants to click a button when they were feeling the Spirit. And then they looked at the results, and they determined that people felt the Spirit most when they were watching audio-visual media produced by the church with music and sound and voice and all this, and when they were praying. That did not surprise me. But of course, like all blind studies, they tricked the participants. They had the participants read a series of quotes from general authorities, and they asked them to click the mic. Oh, no. Okay, I'm saying this wrong. They asked the participants to read quotes by church leaders, some by LDS and some by non-LDS leaders. And they were supposed to click the mic when they were feeling the Spirit. And you can imagine what the results were. You know, they were feeling the Spirit when LDS authorities were speaking, but not when the Christian or evangelical or whoever's were speaking, right? Well, the way they tricked them was, in fact, all of the quotes were from C.S. Lewis. Smart. That was a smart way to do it. And so I think that study kind of helps us think about like how much of this is real and how much of this is placebo, and our brain is just creating these feelings of spirituality or connection on our own under certain suppositions. You know, it's worth looking up. Check it out.
I'm reading it.
Oh, good. You know, but for me, you know, whether Mormonism is true and I mean, honestly, it does produce good people. I mean, I will say that. But I have been pleasantly surprised to step away and explore out in the world and see other people of other belief systems or of no belief system produce really thoughtful, kind people who are connected and kind. And their system may be built on a false belief. And so I have to admit that I'm with Britt Hartley. Like, we don't want to just burn religion down. Humanity might not be ready for that. And it still does produce quite a bit of good.
Well, and I mean, I think because of, like you mentioned, the limited experience people born in the church have with other cultures and belief systems, that's it. Religion and culture are tied. If you tear down Hinduism, you tear down all of India. Its literal government and society is based on it. You will destroy it. And people are not very happy when you try and destroy their country. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing goes with the Middle East, the Middle Eastern culture, the food, the literature, the art is all based on Islam. So if you try and tear down Islam, you're going to get all of the Middle East united against you. Right. And that's something people don't understand, is religion and culture go hand in hand.
Yeah. Can you imagine, I mean, just a thought experiment, if we could snap our fingers and all religious thought, iconography, institution just disappeared, what would happen to humanity on this planet if all religion just vanished?
I think a lot of humanity would be obliterated. I mean, because there's still many religious cultures out there. I mean, I mentioned India. African nations are very religious. South American countries and even cultures are very, very Catholic. Mongolia is 87% Buddhist.
Okay.
So, you know, I think if you were to snap your fingers, like Rob said, with all of the religious thought, iconography, everything attributed to religion, everything, including language, including literature, including art, including food, because many foods eaten today have some religious founding somewhere way off in the distance, right? I think a lot of humanity would be obliterated, and we would not recognize humanity like we do today.
I agree with you, but what? Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, isn't that sort of why ufologists say that the government hasn't presented all the information, because they think that society will collapse if aliens are known, which then therefore disproves heaven the way everybody envisions it, and that would make there's no Jesus, and the aliens would give their universal knowledge, and that's would replace religion. But somehow they the government doesn't want that to happen yet because they think before people would be able to get all the knowledge from the aliens that
I
would collapse.
I don't agree with that personally. I listen to the Backyard Professor and I listen to Tim Rathbone, and those are the two people that I actually care about what they have to say, and George Norrie, so technically three. But I think it's more of, to answer your question, I think it's a matter of the government not wanting people to know because they don't want other governments to get their hands on the tech first. I think that's what it boils down to. Since when has any government wanted to give information to its people? Like,
Never.
just at all. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't see UFOs being any different than like the JFK assassination, which they still won't talk about, even though it's technically declassified. They still don't want to talk about it. Governments just don't give out information anyway.
So let's say that Cliff High is right, and that sometime this year the aliens show up. And he is predicting that there will be multiple suicides and a great upheaval in society because of what will happen when they show up.
Yeah, my mail might not come if my carrier commits suicide.
I don't know what will happen. I think different cultures are going to react
Differently.
They're going to react differently. There's a lot of cultures out there, and it's going to be generational too, because there's a lot of people, and I mentioned this when I called in on the Backyard Professor show. I'm in my mid-30s. People my age and younger, yeah, we all know aliens exist. Like, it's a thing. We grew up with Star Wars and Star Trek. It's not a big deal. So if they show up, it's, oh, hey, they're here finally. Cool. Whatever. Now we can start to get, free food and transporters and ships and stuff. But I think that the more hardlined evangelical group are going to be heavily resistant to it because of the what would they call it, Project Bluebeam or something like that, where the government Project Bluebeam, where the government allegedly is going to use holograms to simulate an alien invasion so the world unites under the Antichrist, under the one world government. So you're going to have that group of people running around. And then you're going to have people that, like Gene says, who are probably just going to panic and, die. So, who knows? But
yes,
I would imagine that an alien invasion, like any other natural disaster, would just cause people to double down on their existing beliefs.
that too.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to bring up something about Project Bluebeam because I didn't keep track too much of what was going on, during the drones and things.
Oh yeah.
And so it's going to take me a little bit to get there.
Bluebeam is supposed to be Jesus coming back.
What is Project Bluebeam? There's a commercial.
Olive oil, guys. Drink your olive oil in the chat. Dude, 3 ads for the same thing. Come on now.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a conspiracy to sell olive oil. That's what the drones are for. So anyway, there's articles that, oh, look at that. Sally Struthers.
She looks trustworthy. I believe her.
Oh, no, Roseanne Barr, Sally Struthers. Sally Struthers on my mind because she's in a new show.
Really?
Yeah. So anyway, this wasn't a very good thing to do. There's a CIA page on Project Bluebeam. Did you know that?
Yeah. Well, the government has HARP and other stuff too, so it's not.
Oh,
No.
really?
I think it's just because the word blue and beams appear in a lot of these CIA documents.
I didn't know there was a CIA document on it.
The NSA talked about the flying objects for a little bit. There's a fact sheet.
It's Blue Bear,
This is
not Blue Beam.
from 30 years ago, maybe. I don't know.
Welcome Rio for life to the show.
June 1995. Project Blue Book. So it was too big of a stretch, you think, then to claim that religions are like a placebo effect drug?
I'm very leery on saying that personally. I can understand why some people may make the connection. I mean, who was it that said that religion is the opiate of the masses? That's an actual quote.
Yeah.
Someone
Yeah.
famous.
Um,
Religion is the opiate of the masses. I feel like I should know who said this, but Carl Jung, Karl Marx. Okay.
Marx.
Okay. Yeah, well, he's not the most reputable of people, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I can see the analogy to a point. There's a disconnect from having been an addict to actual drugs, and what's interesting too is Rob made the connection of the returned missionaries with that double-blind like brain scan study. And what's interesting is when drug addicts actually become religious, there's been studies that have shown that actually helps get off of drugs because it rewires the brain, right? So the dopamine responses become different, which means that the drugs aren't as appealing. For me, it's a matter of outcomes, right? What is using actual drugs? What is the outcome of using actual drugs compared to what is the outcome of religion? Both the good and the bad, you know what I mean?
That's
And
right.
we see that there's a lot of good that comes from religion, right? With drugs, it's all bad. So I don't know if there can necessarily be a comparison. To me, it's apples and oranges. I could be wrong. Yell at me in the chat, but I've almost OD'd twice on opioids. I've never OD'd on religion. So that's kind of that's the
That's right.
most direct. That's the most direct I can be about that.
Opium should be the opiate of the masses, huh?
Yep.
I remember, I don't know if it's opium or something else, the 7% solution, Sherlock Holmes. He's
that was
addicted
cocaine.
to a drug.
Cocaine.
Was that cocaine?
Yeah, I think it was cocaine.
And so here you have, that occurring in the late 1800s. And I don't think that a lot of the drugs were even illegal until the early 1900s in America.
Until the FDA decided to make it, or whatever
Yeah.
the equivalent was back then.
And there must have been problems, but it doesn't seem like there's as much as a problem as when they made them illegal. It seems like
That's
making
when the problem started. When
illegal
they made it
makes it
illegal,
worse.
yeah, because how humans are, if it's forbidden, we want to do it.
Yeah.
Like when you can't have something, you want it more than when you can get it.
Well, you also create the underground market for it, which literally creates crime. Now, Portugal actually did something interesting because they decriminalized all drugs. So you have, because they were having massive drug problems with like smuggling and with violent crime based around drugs. And, people fighting in the streets over territory, over who could sell drugs and make the most profit. Well, with it being legal, anyone can just get it anywhere. the gangs pretty much imploded overnight. The drug trafficking virtually stopped overnight. And there are like rehabilitation centers and things like that for people who actually want to get clean. But Tim brings up the interesting point that the problem started when it became illegal. Because on the flip side of the coin, criminalizing drug use also is profitable.
Correct.
It's
It's
very
all created
profitable.
governments
So,
around
yeah,
protecting
exactly. It's very profitable. Religion
lords.
can be too, depending on how you do it.
Right.
But
I've got a proposal to solve the question as to whether or not the LDS churches promised healing properties as if it were a medication, if they work. And here's my solution. We get a bunch of money together and we set up a fake LDS church, like a placebo. And we put in, a bishop who has no priesthood authority, no keys. It's just fake, and then we run it for, a year or two. And then we talk to the members and see, are they being blessed? Are they feeling the Spirit? Are they?
So there you go. And there might be hundreds of unoccupied church buildings right now scattered throughout the world.
Yeah, that'll make it look more legitimate.
oh, I gotta ask, because you just said, to make it look more legitimate. Does it really need to be fake, or can it just be one of these bazillions of offshoots that like are happening from the LDS Church? Why not just
it's all fake anyway.
Yeah,
It's
just
all
make an
made up.
offshoot. Just make an offshoot. You don't even need to say it's the fake LDS Church. Be like, no, this is the real interpretation of the Book of Mormon, and we're going over here, and then that's what the Baptists do. I
And
mean,
then we
they're
become like Denver Snuffer and all the polygamous sects and all the offshoots of Mormonism.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How many
you're right.
offshoots of Mormonism are there, Tim?
Over 300.
Over 300.
so there you go, Rob. Now you could be over 301.
Nice.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Tobler Day Saints.
I don't know. I feel like just calling it the Toblers, I think, is just better. It's catchier. Just everyone's just like, hey, we're part of the Toblers, and we mow lawns, and we help old ladies across the street. We obey traffic laws. We are the Toblers.
You sign up for a YouTube panel just to have a friendly discussion, and you end up getting nominated as a cult leader. This is
Yeah.
Do you want to be our leader?
no.
Neither do I.
So that is interesting. I mean, we could talk about our friend Joe Rollins has started a church called
Church of
Church
Korihor.
of Korihor. And he actually is just doing it. He's just like, I might do it wrong and I'll learn from it and I'll change the course and I'll try to do better every time. He calls it failing, which is kind of a harsh word, right? To say we're going to fail and we're going to keep on failing. And I remember most of my business books said that, when you fail in a business, it's worth like 3 years of business school. And so it's worth the price of failing every time you fail in business. And so Joe actually was able to secure a spot on Aaron Ra's show, which has 350,000 subscribers.
Wow.
And he said that it's not like donations rolled in, but there were some $25, $50 donors that showed up.
Nice.
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 And if I had told Joe that we were going to have 4 whole viewers and 4 whole participants in the panel, he might have showed up. but
No.
we'll see what happens.
Maybe we suggested Joe that he, as part of his service or ritual, partake in a sacred, holy sugar pill, so that his adherents can enjoy all of the self-healing effects of a placebo. Yeah.
Is it really a placebo when you're getting a real sugar high?
Yeah.
There's some philosophy for you.
There you go.
Well, if you're told it's a pain pill,
That is
and it
correct.
doesn't
Sugar
take away
can make
the pain. Yes.
You know, speaking of, deconstructing a religion or building a new one and seeking ultimate truth and wellness or whatever, I gotta admit, I really enjoyed, or I needed to deconstruct publicly, authentically on TikTok, which I did for a couple years, and I've taken a break from it with the promise that I'm going to go back and do more constructive content. Although I have made a list of a whole bunch of deconstruction videos I'd like to make. But Megan's comment the other day about how some people actually might not be able to survive a deconstruction of their belief system. Boy, I've been thinking about that so much, and I kind of want to follow the Hippocratic oath of first do no harm, and if helping people deconstruct harms them, I'm not sure.
One of the first memes I made as I was coming into my new reality, we'll say, was that I had a picture of Dumbo and I pointed to the ears. I pointed to the feather and it said what the church told me I needed to have. And I pointed to the ears, what I already had already. I already had the power.
Your ears aren't that big.
I don't know. I thought I was the model when I was a kid. I thought the movie was a personal affront to me, although I thought maybe I had a superpower if I could wiggle my hair.
And that's where as a religious person, I do kind of have beef with certain, and I'm going to be very specific here because I do love Exmo Joe and I have a lot of friends who are atheists. I have a problem with certain atheists and certain people who want everyone to deconstruct because of what Rob said, right? And what Megan said. At the end of the day, if you know a religious person and they're a good person, they're not harming you, why are you trying to damage their life, their worldview? Why are you trying to tear down what they have just because you don't think it's true? Right?
That's right. I have a friend.
I don't see a point in that. There's no logic to it. And to me, it's just an attack. If someone is being harmful or is feeling harmed and wants to leave a religion, that's one thing. But if your average John Doe or Jane Doe is, minding their own business, living their life, they happen to be religious, they're a good person, they're not harming anyone, why do they need to deconstruct?
If it's not hurting them.
Exactly. If it's not hurting them and if it's not hurting the people around them, why do they need to deconstruct?
They don't until they.
And I think, and I'm looking at the chat, and I'm thinking that some people might want to do that because they feel so othered for coming to a new knowledge of the church isn't true that angrily they want to destroy it all to prove themselves right, just so that the other people's eyes can be opened. It's like all of our family members turned into ostriches, sticking their heads in the sand as soon as we said, hey, there's light at the end of the tunnel that's not Jesus, right?
I pulled my head out of the sand and I see the sun and you don't. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, well, yeah. Let me just add one comment to that. I can 99.99% agree with what you're saying, Dave, there, especially when people do deconstruct, they end up throwing the baby out with the bathwater. The good parts of religion that do bring service and community and kindness. The reason I'm not 100% with you on that is just that I'm a father of a gay child, and somebody out there is going to, in the LDS community, is going to give birth to the next David Archuleta. And he talked about how he struggled with feelings of self-harm, or I'm not sure what the right word to say here on YouTube is there, but he came through it, and I'm glad, but not everybody survives that, and so that would be my one.
Well, that's why I tried my very best to clarify if the individual is not being harmed, right? Which does not apply to David Archuleta, because
how
he
about
was
this,
being
Diamond
harmed.
Dave? Diamond Dave, how about this scenario? 50 or 70 years ago, I don't know when they first started, Greenpeace or whatever, or whoever group it was, started saying that mink stoles or the white fur from baby seals was cruel and was a horrible thing to do. And all it took was a whole bunch of videos of seals getting clubbed for their fur that started basically the faux fur, or maybe it was faux fur companies that
industry
funded it. But it's, you don't know who you're hurting until you know it. And so
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's
full
the
disclosure, informed consent.
Yep.
It wasn't hurting anybody who was wearing furs. They were just warmed by the furs, right? And so it is a sort of a sticky situation, right?
Yeah. No, and I get it, and that's why I'm trying to leave as much space and nuance for everyone involved to kind of fall under the umbrella. So if people need to or want to deconstruct, they can. And then people, hey Maven, what's up? And then people
Can you
don't
hear me?
need to, aren't being hounded for being religious. You know what I mean?
Are we talking just individuals? Because I'm coming late in here. Are we talking about trying to deconvert people specifically, or just why be public about deconstructing religion?
I'm talking about individuals personally.
Okay.
I'm talking from like an individual standpoint. So that that there could also be some talking past as well if someone else is speaking generally, but
and
I'm being specific.
Were you going to say something, Tim?
We even have religions and cults have been created around ex-Mormonism. Like we've got people who follow Bill and RFM, and people who follow John, and people who follow other people. We've created our own enclaves of ex-Mormonism. Even.
Yeah. Enclaves, yeah, I don't know about cults, but I'm open to data, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, they definitely have, followings. There's definitely some popular ones out there. And I was going to say, Dave, I actually do agree with you then if we're talking about individuals, like trying to specifically deconvert one person. I think it's important to have discussions, though, especially if they bring it up.
Exactly, yes.
But I do think the church was harming me even, and I wasn't willing to see it for most of my life. So I don't know. So I have mixed feelings, because while a lot of conversations with people who were against the church and who were trying to help me out, like I came out of those feeling negatively, in the end, a lot of those planted seeds that did actually help me get out later, even though they felt uncomfortable. So yeah, so I guess, I don't know. So I don't think it should be avoided. I think tough topics should be talked about, and religious people, I think, by far are the least open to that. They want to share their message, but they don't want to hear back, and they feel persecuted when they do, or when you start answering. And I had a coworker like this, I knew she was going to be like this, so I just bowed out of the conversation like as quickly as possible, because I knew that I couldn't help but want to correct things that she said to me, if it was about the Bible or scriptures or something, and I knew she would see it as combative, so I just decided to leave the conversation completely. But but overall, I think religions do harm, so I do think there's a lot of value in taking them down. I think the biggest harm actually is the magical thinking, and I think we're seeing that in the country now, that when you don't care about truth more than you care about a particular narrative, then truth just doesn't matter anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah, Tim, I got Tim. And so I think that's where we're in a world we're at right now, where truth literally doesn't matter, and someone can say something ridiculous like New York passed a law allowing post-birth abortions up to 2 months, or they're eating the dogs and the cats in Ohio, and people go, "Yep, that is true. I instantly believe that now that it came out of this person's mouth. That's a real thing that's happening, and that's causing a lot of harm." So yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
and well,
one
and
man
I do,
said
I
it.
do.
Wait.
Because
Go ahead,
one
Tim.
man said it,
Mhm.
his followers believe it without question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the issue.
Yeah, and no, and I do agree. It's kind of like a murky topic, and it's a tough topic because I mean the whole topic is what if religion is a drug, and I mean I'm both
Well, it is a
religious
drug,
and a
but-
former drug addict, so it's like it's an interesting conversation, and
Yeah.
it's an interesting
Drugs have
dynamic.
good. Oh, sorry, Tim.
Religion is a drug. Religion is a drug.
Mm,
In many ways, it is a drug,
yeah, which can be good
which can be
in
good.
small doses for the right thing. Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
right.
Great
And
topic.
one thing
It
to
was
Maven's
good.
point. Oh,
It was
What were you
good
gonna say,
for
Tim?
us. It was good for us as long as it
Mhm.
lasted, and as long as we didn't know any better. It's the good news is now you know, and the bad news is now you know.
Mm,
Right.
When we knew it wasn't what we were sold it was, everything collapsed.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say to Maven's point earlier, she didn't know the harm it was causing.
Mhm.
The corollary to that is we're told to look happy and look good and love everybody no matter what is going on in our lives. And it creates a false sense of, oh, look how everybody else is doing. They're doing good. Why? How come
Right.
I'm not? But then I go to church.
It's your fault.
I
Yeah.
tie my tie. I wear my shirt. The home teachers come over. They say, "How you doing?" Oh, everything's fine. Right.
But
That
then
is
I,
interesting
I
to me.
but
That
then
is interesting to me because when I joined, I did not hear that rhetoric at all.
see, and then when I was a ward clerk in a exec sec, so I would sit in bishopric meeting, and I would hear the things that people were having problems with.
Mhm.
We're supposed to present nice and happy, but you go to these meetings and you hear everything that's wrong and ways to fix it. What can we do about this? What can we do about that? We had somebody in our ward that was really almost a fascist about the religion in the bishopric. This one man was very, very orthodox, and the bishop was kind of middle of the road, and his counselor really don't want to get involved. And I'd sit there and we talk about these issues. How do you deal with this? It's like when I was just listening to Mormonish's podcast, and how Rebecca said that everybody has their own version of the Mormonism. Nobody looks at it the same.
Yeah.
You've got one spectrum and the other, and they have to appease all of them.
Well, yeah, and that's interesting that Gene said that because when I joined the church, I did not hear that rhetoric at all. It was mourn with those who mourn, rejoice with those who are rejoicing, and then the message I heard in multiple wards was be authentic, be your authentic self, kind of a thing, which is a complete opposite of what Gene's saying. So that's really fascinating, and I appreciate you bringing that clarification in.
Maven has a comment about it. She's curious if the internalized perfectionism is kept back from converts, or if it's something you just feel when you're raised in it versus coming in as an adult convert.
That I don't know, because I've been a perfectionist all my life, even before I joined the church. So that I'm the wrong person to ask on
Right.
that one.
It's more of the culture instead of the doctrine, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Plus, we can't let the elephant out of the room and be off the show without saying Maven has purple hair again.
Yeah.
Great. Love it.
It's
Keep it,
amazing.
Yes. Amazing.
All in favor of starting the cult of Maven, say aye.
I
I
Okay.
I actually have
Maven, you're a cult leader now. Congratulations.
That's right.
But
What I really enjoy. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just
Go ahead.
thinking. Go ahead.
but we've all replaced it. When we left it, we replaced it with what suits us. There's nothing that we all agree on. I mean, we all agree on some things. We all agree that church was bad, that it isn't true. And some of us have gone completely atheist or agnostic because of the way we were raised. And we didn't, like Britt Harley talks about, we didn't have anything to replace it with. So we just collapsed,
That's right.
And-
Maven only needs 10 people to give her 10% of their income to make a living wage.
I mean, I volunteer. Oh, it's Expo Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Not sure how your internet is.
It froze.
Joe
Joe's
froze.
frozen.
Um,
See, and like, I went to another Christian church for a while, and I was really disappointed in it.
Okay, Joe's back.
You guys see me? I had touched the screen with my finger and exited out of the browser because I'm trying. I couldn't figure out how to flip the camera around. I've never done this with my phone before. This is Elijah, my filmer and volunteer, and coincidentally my son.
Hi there,
So, yeah.
Elijah.
Yep. So we are at St. Mark's Cathedral in Salt Lake City with a car full. I don't know if you can see a car full of blankets and a sheesh ton of unhoused people outside in the cold. We're just coordinating with the organizer Carl Moore to make sure that it's all right for us to film while we go and distribute blankets. So doing the work. It's
The
happening.
Church of Korihor in action.
That's right.
Good for you.
Thank you.
The Church of Korihor, pure and undefiled religion, clothing the cold and feeding them, all that.
The irony is that the Church of Korihor, in the Utah Interfaith Forum, Mr. Tobler, you know this Facebook group. You've seen this. We've started to, people were irritated. The Mormons got irritated with us about my posting like hymns of the Church of Korihor. You saw that today I posted our new hymn, More Money Than God. That's getting good reaction. And, but once I posted a video about the light of reason, what the light of reason is, and that people are actually getting spiritual edification out of the Church of Korihor, now they're angry.
Wow.
Tell us what show were you on yesterday?
That's the Raw Men podcast, which is Aaron Raw. He is one of the biggest atheist podcasters / content creators on YouTube. And since I went on that show last night, we've started to get a slow trickle of donations finally at korihor.org to people donating to make blankets. To where today I placed our first order for fleece that we will use for making blankets. So it's pretty exciting.
Good.
So I'm going to post a link to the episode that Joe was on. I'll post a link in the chat. And my computer's going slow, so it's taking me a little bit.
So the new thing that we're talking about doing, we don't know that it's still in the early stages, is I'm looking to possibly organize another mission for Southern California. I don't know if you guys have heard, but it's on fire.
Yes, it's burning my old neighborhood. I grew up in that area, and it's awful.
It is awful, and so I'm looking. I'm like, I've been talking because we have a convert out. My first convert to Korohorism is a trans woman in Albuquerque who says, I'm dealing with I walk past unhoused people every day that I know are vets. And she says, it just breaks my heart to see vets who have given so much to their country and risk so much, and they're out here in the cold. And, we had a grand total of 2 members of the Church of Korihor at that point. And the second one was like, can I start a mission out in Albuquerque? So we're starting a mission in Albuquerque now.
Wow, that's cool.
At this rate, we'll have as many missions of the Church of Korihor as we have converts. And I love it.
That's productive.
It is productive, yeah. Yeah, it's like, come in here, get ready to get busy, or don't join. It does cost $2 a month, so don't join if you're not going to do the work.
Good.
So, anyways, I thought I'd drop in. I am trying to get a hold of Carl, so I am going to bail on you guys. But keep us in your reasoned thoughts and not in your prayers at all.
Will do.
Trying.
And when the Mormons say that the Church of Korihor is a joke, you remember, not a joke. Okay?
It's not
Okay.
he who laughs loudest, it's he who laughs last.
That's right.
That's right.
And loudest. And,
Right, thanks, Tom.
and with reason on their side.
Take care and be safe, man.
Will do.
Bye-bye. All right. That was
Joe calling in from a spaceship somewhere in Utah.
Good for him.
good for him. Good for him.
Yeah. So
Well,
I pretty much got to say what I wanted to say. Michelle helped me make a really cool thumbnail. We could.
It was a
end this
good
show,
thumbnail. I like the thumbnail. It was a good thumbnail.
and for some reason, my dear former friend, Brother Hinckley, started a podcast tonight, alive, to talk about Mormonism. So we could say our own Mormonism real fast, so people don't have to hop over his show. Like the steakhouse is a Mormonism. Diamond Dave,
word.
do you remember hearing words when you first came into Mormonism that people had to explain what they were talking about when they'd give announcements or just talk in the foyer or anything like that? And do you remember any of those words?
Were you asking me or Rob?
Yes, he's asking you.
Oh, everything from like EFY, FSY,
What a bishop is?
firesides. Like I kind of picked up on firesides because I figured, okay, you sit by a fireplace and hang out. It's like, okay, that kind of makes sense. But there's just a bunch of jargon and acronyms that I
Elders
had no
Quorum,
idea.
Relief Society.
I could kind of piece what they were together, right? I didn't fully know the meaning of Elders Quorum or Relief Society or what they did, but I could kind of piece together, okay, this is the men's group and this is the women's group, and
Yeah.
so.
Well, I would just like to say that I've really enjoyed this discussion. I wasn't so excited about the topic, but it was a lot of fun, and I feel like it's a beautiful thing that we talk about, that we wrestle with the concepts of deconstruction, taking away somebody's belief. I mean, I know that the church has hurt me. It has hurt my family. I have researched it enough to find that it is not what it claims to be. However, us discussing the morality of taking someone's belief system away, knowing that placebos are effective 30% of the time, and is that moral? And I just find it so much more beautiful than just listening to some old guys and whatever they say, the discussion is over and we will now, like robots, just do what they say. I just think this is so much more healthy and more beautiful, actually trying to be moral and wrestle with these issues.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I'd agree with what Maven said too. Like, we do need to have these hard conversations, and it's kind of hard for me with my past, mainly in the addiction side. Whenever that comes up, it's kind of like, you don't want to think about that, right? And so when you see, when you've had what I would say to be positive experiences with religion prior to Mormonism, right, with Hinduism, and then someone attributes it to drugs, which I also have experience with, that kind of that kind of, you kind of got to weed through the feelings a little bit, and you kind of got to get to the core at what's being said. So it's a good thing overall.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there are a lot of drugs that do good for society, right? And
Yes.
and there are plant medicines that are
Mhm.
restricted by the same drug restrictive organizations
Mhm.
that, when taken with intent and with the right surroundings and maybe a guide to help, some
Mhm.
people can experience some extra stuff around
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. For
Something
me,
new.
I think it's the term that just in general society, drugs has a negative connotation as opposed to like what you just said, plant medicines. So even though we're still talking about the same thing, one word has a negative connotation that the other does not. And Maven is very, very correct as always.
That's right. Put her to say right again.
Right again.
That's right. It's not good to prescribe one thing for everyone. And especially to say, if you don't do what I prescribe you, you're going to go to hell. That's what I'll
That's
say.
right.
That's right.
Tim,
Mhm.
thanks for letting us into your
Oh, you're
living
welcome.
room again. Maybe next time, better refreshments. They were a little lacking, I thought.
Okay.
That's right.
I got a pizza and a Coca-Cola. I'm great. Like, I don't
Yeah.
All
know.
right. Good for you. Good for you. Good for you.
Yes. And like John DeLynn says, a cult is an organization that doesn't let you leave with your dignity intact. Maven
Yeah.
says, and when you don't need it anymore, it's fine to stop taking it. Even harmful to keep taking after you're cured. And RFM says that to him, church was a lot like sixth grade, and they never want you to go to seventh grade. And
That's
good night,
right.
Maven.
Night,
Good
Maven.
luck with the
Good
rest
night,
of your
Maven.
evening. Thanks for participating. Thanks for showing us the hair. That should have been worth like 50 viewers right there, just to
Yeah.
see
Let's
Maven's
hope
hair.
so.
I might have to change the thumbnail and just say, see
Just
Maven's new
Maven's
hair.
hair.
Yeah.
It's new hair.
I'll let Maven say lol again and right, since I can just control that now. So anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yes.
This week has been weird for a bunch of different reasons, and apparently it kept on going, getting weird for me even tonight. But we're fighting through it. It's been nice to visit with Tim and Robert and Diamond Dave and Maven tonight, and I'm grateful for the friendship that I have, and I bear my testimony that if it's people that count, more than rules. And so yes, I appreciate the people in my life for wherever they are. Right.
Mhm.
We'll
Right.
say,
We
everybody,
appreciate each other.
like, subscribe, and do the things. And we love Maven, and we wish her the best. And I'm going to have her say lol and right one last time. So good night, everybody.
Good night, y'all.
Good night. Good night.
Have